Hi, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we're going to talk about our new Hydro Core. The Hydro Core is kind of something between a club, a kettlebell, and a mace, but portable. And there's no lever in it. There's a huge traction element to this thing, but there's no lever. Clubbing is very much defined by controlled stops, where you control and stop, control and stop. And in the stop positions, you're operating a lever. That lever is where you get a lot of the benefit of the strength development from club swinging, is learning to control levers. The same thing is true of maces. A kettlebell has an offset center of mass, which makes it a version of a lever. When you're swinging a kettlebell, you have the traction pulling away from your hand as the weight tries to escape. You have to grip in order to hold on tight. The same thing is true of a club. When the club is swinging, it's trying to escape and you have to traction grip. The same thing is true of a mace. The first thing I thought when I saw these handles was, it's not really gonna be that difficult. I thought it would be fairly easy. And the truth is, it's not fairly easy. Because the circumference of the ball is really big compared to the 1-inch diameter grip on most competition kettlebells, you're basically holding a huge ball on the outside here. And this makes it very, very hard because you don't get to close your hand all the way, and you don't really get to provide, like in barbelling, an over grip, a thumb lock grip. So pretty much you're stuck in this position the entire time, or this position the entire time, depending on how you want to do it and if you're trying to cycle your grip. I thought that was really interesting as the first thing that I noticed the second I started using it. So the way that we're going to use this thing is just, we're going to do some experimental learning with it. I started the other day before aerial class and I filled it up and I did 9 minutes on the clock, 9 minutes nonstop. And I thought, yeah, that won't be that bad. It's really not that heavy. I think it goes up to about 40 pounds and it's not full, I don't know. So it can't be that much. It can't be 30 pounds, right? But I can single arm a 30-pound club all day. So I thought, no, it won't be that bad. You got two hands, you're sharing the load. I was wrong. It was very hard. And I think it has a lot to do with the size of this grip ball. Being unable to get an overlock grip with your hand makes it much more difficult immediately. It's also really chaotic, which I did not fully expect. I know that water-filled apparati are more chaotic, but it ended up being a lot more chaotic than I thought because of, once again, these rope handles. So as you swing and you go through patterns, you don't always get exactly what you want out of it. And sometimes it deviates out, and that's the nature of having a rope handle on it. Without the handle being a direct lever, you don't have those hard stops which allow you to maintain control or come back to positions of control. So this thing is kind of just like chaos personified, and it just goes crazy all the time. Where it lands is where it lands, and you're gonna have to correct and come to some other position along the way. So the general idea of what I'm going to do is I'm gonna do an experimental learning thing. This is how I like to learn a lot of apparati now that I have a really good, super strong base with clubs and kettlebells. Things like this, which I consider to be relatively light, I just do a build-up learning technique. So the first day I did this before aerial class, I did 9 minutes nonstop. I did something for 1 minute, and then I evolved it one step, and I went for 9 minutes. It was a sweaty mess. I realized your hand gets much tired. It's in a totally different way than kettlebells and clubs, and that's good. The better your grip is, the stronger you are, the more likely you are to live a long time. So anything that's a grip requirement, I really like. Aerial, kettlebells, clubs, maces, now Hydro Core. The next day I did it, I did 10 minutes, and then 11 minutes, and then 12 minutes, and that's where I'm at right now. And I'm just gonna build that up to about 30 minutes. So we always start easy. Instead of just trying to do 30 minutes the first day, we decided we always start at the beginning and we do 9 minutes and we see if anything hurts, if anything's weird. My left wrist was a little bit weird because this thing moves in a much different way than a kettlebell or a club does. It moves more like this in the wrist, more like tiger style or something like that. In aerial class afterwards, I had to be careful with my left hand flamenco grip because the wrist felt a little bit weird. I went to sleep that night, totally fine, woke up the next day, no problems. It was just a little little learning curve. So today I did 12 minutes and we're just evolving our way up, experimenting. And it's kind of between everything, which is really fun. It's between a med ball, it's between a club, it's between a Bulgarian bag, which I don't use that much, but I've used a couple of times. So I find myself recreating club movements, but they're much more chaotic than they would be if you have a club. Because a club is a fixed thing, you can control it very precisely. This thing is really chaotic. What you cannot do is come to a resting pause anywhere in the movement. Once it starts going, you have to keep going until you can find a place to stop it. There's no place in the middle where you can do a control pause. Thus far, I'll probably find it something different. Something that's great about this is it's all core all the time. Every movement, side to side swings, all these things that I love because nothing else does them very well. It's not in barbell, it's not in it's sort of in kettlebell. I love my side to side movement back and forth. It's not in most gym stuff, so this is where I really like to do the majority of my training because all of my straight line stuff is done at CrossFit or at the gym, wherever I'm at. This thing is gonna fill a huge niche in my training of super portable, super lightweight, very fun flow art. If you've ever hung out with like circus people who are like poi spinners, this is kind of like a giant water-filled, double-handed poi. That's kind of what I'm thinking about it as right now. And so I'm really working on experimenting with a lot of those types of movements that I've seen my circus friends do over the years. I think would probably be really good for, I don't know, well, we're gonna figure it out. So this is just a quick update of how I'm thinking about the hydro core right now. I find it interesting that there's no hard lever stops. It is much more chaotic than other forms of training. If you already know what you're doing, then you're gonna survive. If you don't know what you're doing already, then you're gonna have to download this. The interesting thing about the hydro core is that you can actually download it. You don't have to fill it all the way up. You could just put 5 pounds of water in it. You could measure out a pound of water. So 16 ounces of water, you could just put 16 ounces of water in there and do it 5 times and make it only 5 pounds. And you could start much, much easier than me chucking it up to whatever, 20, 25 pounds right at the beginning. So the thing that makes this different than clubs or kettlebells is that it's portable. I can make it very, very light by draining all the water out of it. And then I could micro load it. I could actually micro load it, which you can't do with kettlebells, you can't do with clubs, and you can't do with maces. You have one fixed weight and you design your program around that fixed weight. With this one, you could actually design a progressive weight program just by adding more water to the whole system, which is pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build from 9 minutes to 30 minutes, non-stop movement, non-stop grip. And then after that, we'll go and we'll start looking up other resources to see what other people are doing with it. But right now, I love it.